Hey, it's Nick Sadler here from The Label Machine. Coming up on this episode, we have Gabe Schillinger from Legion Beats and Midi Money. I really looked forward to this one as both he and I have a passion for creating fan funnels to monetize music, and he definitely didn't disappoint. He talks about the best paid platforms to use in 2022, what kind of top funnel activities you can do to get people to sign up to your list, and he also breaks down the different levels of funnels, including how to sell products worth thousands to your fans. If you're interested in fan funnels, you're absolutely going to love this one.
You're listening to the Label Machine series, a podcast to inspire and help indie record labels and artists to build income streams for their music. I'm Nick Sadler, a music entrepreneur that has helped start and run multiple indie record labels. In this series, I'll be speaking with music industry leaders about their experience and the lessons they learned on how they both market and grow their music income.
Welcome to the Label Machine series, where we discuss with our guests how artists and record labels sell music. Today's guest is Gabe Schillinger. Gabe is a music producer, digital marketer, public speaker with an endless passion for teaching music entrepreneurs how to grow and scale their business. He's worked with artists like Snoop Dogg, Kendrick Lamar, and Killer Priest from Wu-Tang Clan. In his professional marketing career, he was one of the first music niches to have a six-figure launch via sales funnel. And as a public speaker, he has shared the stage with titans of the marketing industry, such as Tony Robbins, Russell Brunson, and Frank Kern. Gabe is an expert in deploying sales funnels to create financial success in the music industry, and I am super stoked to have him here today. Gabe, how you going?
Nick, what's up, man? Great to talk to you. Thanks for that intro. Can you send me that? I like that.
I will. I do. I like to do my research and always prepare a nice intro for people.
That's great. I need that. Thank you. I'm serious. If you don't mind sending me that, that'll be awesome.
You know what? I'll put it, copy and paste it now into my
I appreciate it.
my thing to remember. So yeah, don't worry. I'll send that over to you now. So we've just been discussing. This is going to be like super tight and fast because we've got a limited time here. So with that in mind, let's start with the backstory. How you got started in the industry to where you are now. As quickly as you can do it.
As quickly as I can do it. I used to be broke and now I'm less broke. A little more detail. So I'm a producer and engineer, mainly, hip hop, R&B, pop, that kind of world. And so, started out making beats and then opened up my own little recording studio and was kind of trying to play like the industry game, which for producer, especially in the hip hop world, is to try to get placements, to make beats and try to get those beats to, first maybe the local rappers and hip hop artists and stuff in the area, and then work your way up to, whoever. So that was kind of the game that I played for like 10 plus years. And it's a really rough one, super competitive. And I did better than a lot of people. I had some really fun times where got to hear, songs that I did on regular rotation on the radio, went to see the Warriors play and heard my music in the arena, and got to work with some of the, the local rappers that I grew up listening to, or if you happen to be from the Bay Area in California, you'll know these names like E40 and Too Short and Mr. Fab and Sneak. If not, you probably have no idea what I'm talking about.
Although I grew up in New Zealand, I listen to a lot of West Coast, so I do know those names. Yeah.
Okay, great. And so, so I did okay, and I had some fun moments and stuff like that. But about 10 plus years in, I started to realize, okay, I'm at that time I'm getting to be about 30 years old. I'm moved back in at my dad's house. I've got this day job that I'm not any good at, which I was trying to be a personal trainer. I was like terrible at that job and whatever, realizing that this is probably not going to be sustainable as a career. Like, even though I've had some of these things where maybe somebody from the outside, like, would be like, oh, you made it, you work with this artist or been on the radio or whatever. It was like, I was broke. I was making almost no money. And so then it was pretty much coming down to like, okay, it's probably time to pick a real job and still do music for fun or whatever. But it's thinking it's probably not going to be my career path. And almost as like a Hail Mary, a last ditch effort, some last thing to try, I thought, well, maybe I'll try selling beats online. which is definitely not a new idea, not one that I came up with. Producers have been selling beats online, for a couple decades now. It just hadn't been something that I had done. And that ultimately set off a chain of events that basically changed my life, which is once I started doing that, started selling beats online, and I was like, well, how can I get a couple more sales so I can get a little more traffic? And I started kind of looking up some marketing stuff and learning a little about marketing, and then seeing what all the other producers were doing and how they were kind of, getting some traffic and getting some sales and stuff like that. And that opened up my eyes to this whole new world of marketing, of direct response marketing, of funnels, of all these different things. I came across somebody who's now a close friend of mine, Anno Domini, who's a producer in the space, who was actually using funnels, and his whole process looked completely different. Every producer had the same thing, where it's like they post up their beats on YouTube, and there's a link in the description of the video that goes to their beat store, and their beat store looks exactly the same. But he had something where he had a video at the top, and he was telling a story, and he had a whole offer that he put together that wasn't just one beat lease like everybody else. And I was just like really fascinated by that. And then from there, found out about Russell Brunson, who sort of became my next mentor, and also very, very grateful to say is somebody that I, speak to and have been able to work with a little bit.
You could call a friend.
Yeah, I think I can call him a friend. I think that's fair. I just voxed him yesterday. He hit me back, so I feel pretty good about that.
Nice.
And basically the important part here is that what I realized is, up until that point, all I focused on was my craft, producing, engineering. I wanted to be in the studio working on my art. And I thought if I just got good enough at my art, if I just got good enough at my craft, then the right manager would come save me. The right label would come save me. A pub deal would come through. Somebody would write me a check. I thought somebody was going to come save me. But obviously that didn't happen. But when I started focusing on my marketing, that's when things changed. And I thought like business and marketing was something that was really boring, that was for other people, that I wasn't good at. And once I started actually doing it and learning these cool new ways to do things like, funnels and direct response marketing and all that, then I realized I could actually take some of the creativity, the passion, the excitement, the energy, the focus, all that stuff that I put into my music, I could start putting that into my marketing. And it was actually fun and fulfilling. And I was actually pretty good at it. And now my music started getting out to more people, started making more money, and ultimately was able to do, like you mentioned, the first 6-figure launch for a beat pack, ultimately got my first 2 Comma Club award for doing $1 million in sales, selling beats online, which if anybody is listening who sells beats online, they know it's hard to make $1. So I'm very proud of that. And then from there, started a second business, basically teaching producers about how to, do that, and was able to get a second 2 Comma Club award for that. Was able to build that business to 7 figures, and just been going ever since.
Amazing. I've got some pre-prepared questions, but I actually want to jump back to the part of the story when you said, you did have some beats you heard on high rotation on the radio, so for all intents and purposes from the outside, it does seem, why do you think when you then did have those opportunities that the money wasn't there? Like, do you think that you were holding yourself back and you thought you weren't worth, and you weren't negotiating a high enough cut? Because that's a pretty good springboard. Like that, I mean, I know people who've done less than that have managed to kind of carve out a career where they can pay a mortgage and have a family. Can you kind of talk back on that, and how maybe your attitude's changed to now when you have made a lot of money and looking back on it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a nuanced thing. I think when you're outside of it, you almost look at, like, if somebody says, "Oh yeah, I'm a musician, I'm a producer, I'm in the music business," then they basically think either you're, I don't know, Drake, and you're a millionaire and you're popping champagne, or you're completely broke. And those are like the two options. I feel like from the outside, that's what most people kind of think of. And I think I probably thought that too, and the reality is there's a million levels in between. I mean, I'll tell a quick story not about myself, but just to kind of bring it back. I was doing a session probably about 5 years ago. So I was already, getting pretty good into making money online and doing all this kind of stuff. And I had a producer come in on a session, and he had just got a placement on Drake's last album, which I think at that time was maybe viewed. I don't know, whatever. It doesn't matter. He got a placement on a Drake album. That's like
huge.
Basically, if you're a producer, that's it's about as big as it's going to get, right?
Yeah.
And we were doing the session, and he was looking around, and he's like, "Bro, how did you do this? Like, you have a team here. You're working full time." And he still had a day job. He's was definitely not doing music full time. And so the reality is like, yeah, just because you got a Drake placement doesn't mean you're on, right? And it depends on your situation, right? If you're the top of the food chain and you're the producer who's worked with that artist for a long time and you're tied in with the management and they're all, you know what I mean? There's just so many levels, there's so many layers. So yes, I did get some songs on the radio, and the ones that were on regular rotation were really on KMEL and 94.9, like the local stations here, the big hip hop stations, the biggest ones here. But it wasn't national. So even if maybe I was getting some publishing money, but I was like pennies. And also, I think, I mean, I can speak to the Bay Area hip hop scene specifically. It's like it's got this very like individual hustler mindset. And so basically what I'll say is there just wasn't a lot of money to go around. Like it was like, if I was working, all the artists who are on enough that that any producer would want to work with them because they're getting on the radio, would want stuff for free or at a big discount. Yeah. And so most of the money was coming from, the other artists. So yeah, I don't know if that exactly answers your question, but it's just, there's so many levels and layers. I don't know that it was a belief of mine. I think it was just, I wasn't in a position to make money. I was just, the dude who happened to make the beat, but I didn't know,
Yep.
yeah, I didn't know how to actually monetize it.
I think that levels is actually a really good point as well. And there are so many musicians out there who do have a day job or a part-time job, but they're also like, they do regular gigging, they go on tour around their country, maybe even do some international tours and things like that. But they do have that kind of side job. And what I say to people is, unless you are going to be that 0.5% at the top, you are probably going to have another job outside to support your music industry, which is perfectly acceptable. And I think it's becoming more and more acceptable these days. But if you can have that job in the music industry, then you're winning, right? You can be producing, you can be doing music, and then maybe you do art for other artists. Maybe you help people sell music. Maybe you run a PR company, whatever that is. I personally, that is the dream that I sell to people because I think it's a realistic dream. And it's exactly what you're doing, right? It's exactly what you're doing.
Yeah,
you live in the dream.
Absolutely. Yeah. And really, if you look at it, certainly that second business, Midi Money, it's a business where I teach. There's courses and stuff. So that's not a music thing, but it's very much related because I'm teaching producers, how to make money from their music. So yeah, it's exactly what you're talking about, that sometimes you can make money from your music. It happens to be, if you're a producer selling beats, you're in one of the best positions to actually make money directly from your music, because there is still a market of artists who will pay for those. I think it's harder as an actual artist who's, selling music to consumers, because why would I just go on Spotify and I have all the songs. It's all, so the music itself, is not necessarily the value, but the music itself is the way that you develop that relationship, accrue that audience. And then from there, now you leverage that relationship into, different experiences, products, services, merch, shows, etc. And that's the model that I've seen work, for artists to make money.
Yeah, and this is a perfect segue to get into the weeds. So from your point of view, what is some creative ways to generate revenue that you're finding working for artists and labels today that don't rely on streaming revenue?
Yeah, I think the streaming is tough, right?
Yeah.
Because there's just only so much to go around. What I've seen the best is a couple things. So one is sort of an understanding of traffic and owning your relationship with your audience. So this is really a concept I learned from Russell Brunson, where it's basically traffic, which just means attention, people paying attention to you, talking to you, consuming your content, etc. Right? You can either, you can borrow it, you can own it, right? And when you have, let's say, Instagram, right? You have a Facebook, you've got a bunch of followers on there. That's great, but you don't own that traffic, right? Mark Zuckerberg owns that traffic. And if he decides tomorrow he's going to change the algorithm and you're not going to get any more organic reach, then you no longer can reach those people, right? Or you get booted off the platform, which happens all the time, right? If you've got a big following on YouTube, that's awesome, that's great, but that's not your traffic. That's Larry and Sergey, the dudes who run Google. That's their traffic. They can do with it what they want. Again, they can shut down your account. They can change the algorithm. They can do whatever they want. So that's the first thing that I say is learn to own your traffic. And the way you do that is get people's phone numbers, get people's email addresses, right? These things that are not platform specific, where even if, right now I send out a lot of my emails through ActiveCampaign, for example. ActiveCampaign can shut me down. It doesn't matter. I have that list of emails, and now I can directly contact my audience. I can nurture that relationship, and then I can ascend them up to the next thing that we can talk about, which is actually, okay, how do we make some money? So that, but to me, that's almost like the first step, because I think there's a danger in believing that the goal of social media and all these things is to get likes and followers and subscribers, and none of that. I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but it kind of doesn't, right? It's really about how many of the, like, leveraging that platform to get people onto your own platform, so that you can nurture that relationship directly.
Yeah, I mean, that's like top of funnel, like, as a social media. And I completely agree. It is what I preach. I mean, number one, just build up your email addresses. And every single artist or label I've worked with that is making serious cash, over 100,000 emails in their email, minimum 100,000 emails in their email list, in their subscriber list.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not rocket science. Like, just build up the email list.
Yeah. And by the way, I'm more and more into phone numbers too. Like email, absolutely. But yeah, text message also is huge.
Do you know what? 2022 has been phone numbers for me as well, because I think it's become cheap enough to do it internationally. That was a problem I think found like 5-6 years ago. If I was based in the UK, it was very difficult to do all the phone number stuff with the US. Whereas I think the companies now as a phone number is almost treated like an email address, which I think is awesome for music marketers. So yeah, so we're talking about own your traffic, which is awesome. So you've got these email addresses, you've got these phone numbers. How do you, like, what are some examples that you've seen where people are successfully monetizing their music? And like, let's start with that. Let's start with a hip hop artist, say.
Yeah. So then from there, it's products, services, right? Experiences. So what does that mean? It could be some kind of physical merchandise, right? Obvious one. But I will say an angle that I like to put on that is the importance of telling your story and connecting with your audience in a way that goes beyond just the music, right? So maybe that's because of some other shared interest, like you're really into, I don't know, sneakers or sports or whatever. Snowboarding, there we go. Or your message is really about having, self-esteem and feeling good about yourself, or your message is about partying and doing drugs, or, like, I don't know, whatever it is, there's people are going to come to you because they want to get a certain feeling, right? That's kind of how I think of brand or your story or whatever you want to call it. So when you really build that well, and you build that well by just telling your story and getting better and better at telling your story. Like you asked me to tell your story. I've now told that a bunch of times, and each time hopefully it gets a little bit better, or I can adjust it depending on, what makes sense. So same thing if you're an artist, get better at telling your story. What is the story that you want to tell, that you want to connect with people? What are the other interests you want to bring in? And now you start building this community around that. Now people come to you and they become a part of this tribe. They're a part of something bigger, right? People want to be a part of something that feels bigger than themselves. They want that community, right? Now all of a sudden, it's not just, let me, slap my logo on a t-shirt and hopefully somebody wants it. Now it's, when somebody puts on that t-shirt, it transforms who they are. They put on that t-shirt and it's like putting on a, a 10,000 pound weight, right? It's like, it's like, a superhero costume or something, they're like, yes, this is my tribe. I rep it. I get this feeling when I put this shirt on. I feel that, or this hat, or whatever. And so it's like a subtle difference because it could just be the logo. It's fine. It doesn't, but the importance is building the brand and the story around that thing. So now your merchandise has real feeling to it, so that people actually want it. So that would be one piece.
Yeah. I mean, and, as a record label as well, that is I guess you are a tribe of a collection of artists, especially I think if you're a genre-based label, right? I'm putting out, like any of the rise of the big EDM labels, that the kind of music they're putting out. There's a collection of those artists, like the drum and bass scene, the dubstep scene, or any of that kind of stuff. And then so when you wear that T-shirt, you're part of that label's tribe, and
Right.
and there is that value in it. So if you are a label, I think you've sort of got a default story to go to. But if you are an artist, I completely agree. You've got to find what your story is. And that's one of the hardest things is I did music management for years as well. I think that's one of the hardest things is helping artists find their story. Because in a way, you're helping them trying to find themselves.
Yes. Right. And I think a big part of that is just experimenting and just not being afraid to hop on whatever Instagram, social media, where it doesn't matter where, and just start talking and just tell different stories and talk about different things. And you never know what is the thing that people are going to connect to or what's going to feel good, to you about talking about. And actually one interesting thing, I haven't gotten a chance yet to like deep dive into the stuff that you teach. I'd love to, but I feel like if you're talking about merch and stuff for a record label, then I would want to have some personal brand for that record label. I'd want to know who is the CEO of that record label, and I want to get that feeling from that person. You know what I mean? And that's what we see a lot, is that a lot of times they happen to be artists. They don't have to be, right?
They don't, but I have to say almost all labels I've worked with, they were.
Yeah, it's pretty common. It's pretty
because it's you get older, you're like, hey, I'm now going to A&R all the young kids coming through, and it's a very natural progression. So that does but it doesn't have to be. But I think at the end of the day, even if you're not an artist but you started a label, you're a music lover, right? Like that's at least the first step in your story. Like why do you love music? What's your story behind there? So you're right, it is important. Going back onto going onto the merch thing, and say you've got a story, and you might say a T-shirt or a sticker pack. Let's say I'm into snowboarding, so I do all snowboarder style kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Do you find digital merch packs, so like creating, I guess, a digital download of something unique, like maybe a remix or something, works as well as say doing like a free shipping, like like a little pop badge, a sticker, a signed kind of card that actually gets sent in the post? Like what in your experience, what works better, or I'd just love to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I think there is something magical about physical stuff that definitely helps. But of course you can do digital stuff. Again, it's just tricky because I've seen artists do a funnel where they say, hey, I'll give you a free download of my song, and I've seen it work. To me, it feels a little bit like, it's almost an inconvenience, right? Because again, if I want to listen to a song, I'd probably just go to Spotify now. I have to figure out how to download. But even that can work. What I would imagine might be a little bit better is like, hey, here's a exclusive behind the scenes, video content of me creating this song. Or I'm gonna do like a live question, Q&A thing where you can come get to know me, and maybe I'll play some music too, or something like that. And I guess that's getting more into experiences. But yeah, as far as digital merch, I think different content, like if you have some content that is exclusive to the people who care enough to get on your list, like that behind the scenes stuff, or early access maybe to songs or music videos or things before everybody else gets to see them. There's something that feels kind of cool about that. So I think that stuff can work as well.
Nice. It's awesome to see the insight. So, we do talk about one of the. I mean, I talk about a lot about paid advertising as a great way to generate leads. You know, if you've got a budget, you can get started straight away. Google, you've got Facebook/Instagram, you've got YouTube. YouTube's, I guess, kind of like under Google as well. You've got TikTok. Where do you think it would be best to focus in 2022?
For paid traffic?
Yeah.
Facebook and Instagram.
Still Facebook and Instagram?
Yeah. So like 2 years ago, Facebook and Instagram was the best advertising platform in the history of the universe, and maybe will be of all time. Maybe we'll study it and be like, oh my God, I can't believe that was true.
The golden years.
Yeah, it was insane. And there's a lot of complaining because it's a lot worse than it was 2 years ago. But it still can work. It's still pretty amazing. You know, it's a lot harder for sure than it was. You can't just kind of throw something up there and, you know, whatever. You gotta try more creative, meaning, you know, test a bunch of different videos and different pictures and different copy, you know, the text, the stuff that you write on there, because you have to just test more. And, you know, so it takes more effort than it used to, but it still works. And in my experience, I've tried a little bit of paid TikTok ads. I've tried a little bit of paid Snapchat. I think YouTube and Google are probably second, but still definitely it's not Facebook and Instagram. So to me, that's still, as of right now, you know, summer 2022, to me, that's still number one.
That's good to hear, because that's what most of my courses and programs still teach.
Yeah.
You're like, it's all TikTok. I better go do the TikTok course then.
Subject to change. If you're doing, or I will say, if you're asking where can you get the most organic reach right now,
that was my next question.
TikTok.
Yeah.
TikTok.
Yeah. So what advice would you give to someone that simply just wants to make a living making music? They don't want to, or they don't have the capacity to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Sorry, you got something you're going to add to it?
No, I was gonna say, I think I was just trying to define like what entrepreneur means. And I mean like a music entrepreneur, and that, you know, the kind of doing all the creative and all the marketing side of it, just to kind of clarify what that means.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a great, that's a lot of my message and what I teach and what worked for me is embracing entrepreneurship. So it's a tough one for me to answer. But I will say this. I have you know, listened to a lot of entrepreneurs and business people and been on a lot of podcasts and stuff. And so often you hear the story of like, yeah, when I was a kid, I used to hustle candy to the other kids, and I've always been entrepreneurial. You know, and so I think that there's maybe feeling that some people just have that and some people don't. Now, I can tell you that was not my story at all. I never sold any candy as a kid. I never had any interest in marketing or business, literally till I was about 30 years old. You know, it just wasn't on my radar as anything I could imagine being interested in. It sounded boring. It sounded horrible. And it wasn't until I actually dove in and learned some of the cool new stuff that was going on, and then started applying that to my music, and then got some results and was like, oh my God, I just made some money from my music. Oh my God, I just got, you know, somebody in Germany just bought my beat. That's really cool. And like, oh wow, now I've got, you know, 10,000 new people that just heard my music or whatever. You start getting those results, that also helps, right? And so it becomes more fun. So I guess maybe I'll twist that around a little bit to maybe a mindset shift, to where maybe if you are an artist and you think entrepreneurship and marketing is boring and dumb, be more creative. And actually not only be more creative, but use the skill set that you've acquired by being a musician, an artist, a producer, and just apply that to your entrepreneurship. It's crazy how, like, as artists, a lot of times we're so creative with our art, right? But then it comes to our marketing and business and it's no creativity. It's just, I'm just going to do the same dumb thing that I've been doing, or I saw one person do, or whatever, right? But once you shift your mindset, then it's like, oh wait, actually, let me be creative. Let me think, what kind of experience do I want my fans to have? Not just for the 3 minutes they're listening to this song, but how do I want them to come across me in the first place? Where do I want to go from there? How am I going to tell my story through maybe a series of emails or videos or different things? And then from there, how can I turn that into maybe like some of the merch, whether if it's digital, physical that we talked about, or turn that into some experiences, which, we haven't talked about yet, but like, like a traditional concert, or a concert where some of the VIPs can come backstage and hang out, or something off the wall. Like you mentioned, maybe a common interest is snowboarding. Hey, I'm going to take 10 people snowboarding, and it's, whatever, it's cost $2,000 each, $10,000 each. I don't know, but your super fans are going to pay for that thing. Right. And so that's the creativity and the fun that you can start having, and apply that skill set over to your music. So
Yeah.
I kind of sidestepped your question.
No, I know it's a tough question, and it's why I ask it. And, and personally, I completely agree. I'm like, you have to embrace it. If you don't want to embrace it, then you've got to go and get a best friend to be your manager, or get someone else to do it for you, or pay someone else to do it for you. There is no other way around it. And I agree. Like, what's really weird is a lot of the labels I've founded and worked with other artists, the way we approach marketing is like, hey, cool, what's something awesome we can do? Like, what's an Easter egg that we can put in the music video that's then going to go to a website that you're going to get a free download? And we're like, that's totally cool. And we're going to do like a USB card that looks like the artwork. And when you put it in, a secret thing comes up. Like, you can just go so creative. And it is bizarre when people say, I'm not interested in that. It's like, like an advertising company, the head of the advertising company is the creative director. Creative. It's literally in his name. And,
Right.
if you went to an advertising company, marketing company, and ask them, are they creative? They're like, hell fucking yeah, I am. Like, yeah. I completely agree with what your, with your sentiments, what you're saying as well. So I've got a case study here. I'm a hip hop producer in Philadelphia. I work part-time in a fast food joint, and I have an automobile bill of $3,000 I need to pay in 90 days. What are the exact steps I should take to make that money in 90 days?
Okay. Well, go watch my webinar, because I'll show you.
Yeah. We're Midi Money. Like, we'll put a link. We'll share that as well. If we Google, just Google Midi Money.
Midi Money. I'll get you an affiliate link or something. So wait and click on Nick's link. But so I have a whole process. So basically,
do I quit my job? Do I quit my part-time job in fast food?
I mean, no, don't quit your job. You're trying to get more income sources, not less. So if you've got one, go ahead and stick with that. Let's try and add a few. First of all, right? So more income sources, the better. As far as if you're trying to make money from your beats, then really, if you do the traditional thing, which is I'm going to try to put them up on YouTube, going to try to, rank for these keywords. This is pretty specific to hip hop, but like rappers will go onto YouTube, they'll search for like, whatever, Jay-Z type beat, Drake type beat, whatever. You try to rank high, then hopefully they click play and they like it enough to click that link and go to your beat store, right? That model is really, really, really hard to be successful with. So the model that I teach is a little bit different. It's more about, okay, let me connect with those people, whether if it is through paid traffic or maybe it is organic, like doing, let's say, TikToks, we said was the best for organic. This person doesn't have a lot of money to spend. So get on TikTok, show some behind the scenes of you making beats, you talking about who you are, playing your beats, and then have a link that's going to go and say, hey, I'd love to start off this relationship right. How would you like 5 free beats to get started? Bam, that link goes to a very simple page where they put in their name, their email, and hopefully their phone number. Then now you're building in that list. And what I would do is literally immediately right on the next page, give them a very special offer where you've got a video and you're telling your story. Hey, what's up? Here's my story. You could even be super honest, right? Here's my story. I got to make $3,000. I think my beats are really good. I've gotten a lot of really good feedback, blah, blah, blah. You let me know what you think. Here's the thing. Most producers, they sell a beat lease for, $30 each. I've been making beats for this many years. I've got 50 beats right here. This is going to sound stupid, but you can have all 50 of these beats right now for, whatever, $47. And the reason I'm doing this is, for one, honestly, I just need the money. And also I really believe in a long-term relationships in this business. And I think that this will be the start of that. Right. And we can get deep into how you can then add order form bumps and upsells and follow-ups and all that kind of stuff. Go watch the training, but that's sort of the core, nutshell version.
So you get them in there, and then you've got the email in front of you. You can start building that relationship over time. And you know, and I've read Russell's book as well, and I know there is the tiers that you want to take people through. And I think you mentioned one of them was experiences as well.
Mhm. Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I actually, because it's something I've sort of, I guess the artists I've worked with, I guess the equivalent of experiences is they start doing gigs and people come to their live shows and then they get
Right.
paid, they get paid their fees to play their shows. So in a way, that's kind of the default experience.
Correct.
But I mean, what are some like cool examples that you've seen with some of the artists you've worked with? You don't have to say names, but what are some kind of
Sure.
things that have done where they do have these like $3,000 kind of figure experiences?
Yeah, so that is definitely when it helps to have something else in your brand, your identity, right? Like we mentioned the snowboarding thing, right? That was a random one. Like we'll all go snowboarding, cool. Maybe it's God, I'm trying to think of some good examples. Maybe maybe your background is in graphic design or something, and that's sort of your day job. And you're going to do a graphic design little workshop where it's just like, hey, it's informal, but I'm going to hop on Zoom, once a week for 4 weeks. And, if you're interested in that, come hop on there. That's not like amazing, but, be
No,
creative.
so
Just
that's
start to
maybe
think
not
like,
2 grand, but would you then maybe go, yeah, you know what, and it's going to be $100 or $200 to come be part of this for a
for,
month?
for something like that. Yeah. You could also do, let's see, if you have, a little home studio or whatever, you
Hmm.
could say, hey, I'm going to pick one fan, or I'll literally offering this to just one fan to actually come in and produce a song with me. I'd love, you can just hang out, as much input as you want, or if you just want to hang out, cool. Maybe that's something you charge $1,000 for or something, if you've grown a little bit of relationship, um,
That's a great
in
one.
that
Yeah,
way.
I
Yeah.
like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and I guess, and I'm just going to get into the nitty gritty as well. Like, how
Yeah.
long do you think it takes when someone, say, joins your list? Maybe they've bought the 50 beats or something.
Mhm.
Um, how long do you think it takes to nurture somebody before they will be like, yeah, I'm gonna give over like more than $1,000? Do you think?
It really depends on the person. I mean, there are people who will come in and spend $1,000 on day one.
Mm.
There's just certain people that will. And there are, like, I've had people on my list who didn't buy something for 3 years and then all of a sudden they buy something. So there's a huge range. And that's another reason, don't underestimate the value of that list, right? You might be like, man, I got 100 people on my email list already, but nobody bought. Like, you're fine. Keep going. That's worth money. Like, that is money in the bank, those emails. Keep nurturing it. Don't just let them sit there. Make sure you keep reaching out to them. But yeah, so it's tough to say as far as that very specific version that I talked about. If you happen to sell beats and there's that offer,
Mm.
we find that if people are going to buy, it's that first offer, it is usually in the first couple days for that. But then maybe they don't. But then maybe they're on your list for 6 months, and then and then they buy the next one. So yeah, it varies. It varies really widely, and it's a numbers game. And you don't know how well something works until you have enough people, right? Like, you might be, again, I see this all the time where I teach producers how to kind of put this funnel together and be like, again, I had 100 people and they came in and nobody bought. And it's like, okay, well, here's the thing, like, a good conversion rate on a sales page is like 3%. Like, that's great. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
And so the
that's
reality is if you have 100 people, you might not have enough data to know yet, right? If the 101st person buys, now you're at 1%. You know what I mean? Like, it would be
yeah.
very easy to get to 3%. You just don't have enough data yet. So sometimes you just need to keep going, get more traffic. If you can afford it, try some paid traffic. If you can't, focus on organic only at first. And best is to do a little bit of both. And just keep getting people in, keep practicing, keep getting those numbers up. And then it's more of a snowball effect really than anything as that list
Mm.
continues to grow.
And if you are being honest in your story, people will find and connect with you. They always will.
Yeah.
Always. There's always people out there that love you. And I think that's a really important thing to make. And it's something even I've learned as, like as a business owner, like there are people out there that will give you $1,000 or $3,000 to have an experience with you, which if no one's ever given you that for an experience, you just think it's bonkers. But
Right.
people just, if they love you, they will do it. And they think that, and you don't know also people have different financial situations, some people they've they live a humble life, but they inherit a bunch of money and like they want to spend it somewhere. And like, not everyone is struggling.
Yeah, it's true. Absolutely. And by the way, just another quick thing, like with entrepreneurship, and it ties into that, and money is like, I think another reason why sometimes artists don't like to get into entrepreneurship, because it's almost like money is evil and it's like ruins art or whatever. But I guess that to me, that's a false belief. And it's like, I don't know, money's cool. You can like, it's fun to buy stuff. Like, that's great. If somebody can buy that type of experience, they're going to feel good about it. Like if like selling something to somebody, sometimes people think they got over on them. It's like, no, like how many times have you bought something you were excited about? And it's just a great feeling, like even the anticipation of like, yes, I'm going to go get that new, I don't know, iPhone or whatever. And then you open up the box. And it's great. You're doing them a favor by selling them that.
I mean, the easiest way is just to ask someone, who's your favorite band? Or, like for me, I love The Prodigy, right? I'm like, well, The Prodigy offered this thing and you got to like have a signed thing from them, meet them. I'd be like, yeah, I'll give them $100 for that tomorrow. I'd love them. Like, of course. Right. And I want to give them money because I support them. Like,
yeah. And how much would you pay to hang out and have dinner and jam with them and record a song with them? Right. Like you can keep going and going. So
yeah, I'm going to be taking a loan out.
There you go. Maybe you will.
So I'm just conscious of time. How quickly can we go? Okay. I always ask,
what are some... a few minutes. I'll be okay.
All right, cool. What are some rookie mistakes or common problems you see over and over again that new or early career artists make? You can just pick one of them.
Yeah. Gosh, the first one that comes to mind, I think I already said, which is focusing too much on the social media vanity metrics, meaning like how many followers do I have, how many likes, instead focus on growing that list, that email and or text message list. That's probably the first one. And I'll give one more, which is being afraid to put your music out and being like, okay, the next song's going to be better. The next song's going to be better. I'm going to wait to put it out. That's not the process. The process is make the shit, put it out, get feedback, and then make the next one, and then make the next one, but keep putting it out. Don't wait. Don't stockpile other beats or finished songs or whatever. Put it out. Don't wait. Have some kind of strategy, sure. But for the most part, people lean way more towards, I'm going to hoard this. It's precious. I'm waiting for the exact right time to put it. Like, no, put it out, keep putting it out. That's the process.
Yeah, I completely agree. Just consistently put out music and don't worry about the metrics. So Siren, when you're listening to this, because she's an artist I deal with, and she's often going, oh, but what are these other artists that are like, they're same level as me, and they've got like 30,000 more followers. I was like, it doesn't matter. Just build up your email list. That's the most important thing you can do. And I bang on it every single day, and it's so hard to get through sometimes with artists. Yeah. So one thing I realized about your last name, is it Schillinger? Is that how I say it?
Yeah, you got it perfect. Most people don't get the hard G, the gur.
Oh, right.
Perfect.
So are you moving into Web3? Because what's kind of funny is now a common term for if you are pushing a Web3 project is you're shilling your project. And I was like, if you get into Web3 and you're a marketing expert, you've got like the perfect last name.
That's funny.
I mean, yes. What's your take on, I mean, I have a film production company, and we've just launched a financing platform for short films on the blockchain. So I'm sort of, and I only got into it last November, but it's something like I'm looking at it from that point of view and bringing it into the music world. And I'd love to get your thoughts on that. Like, is it something you're going to embrace? Do you think it's the future?
Yeah, definitely. I think whatever it was about a year ago when everybody started talking about NFTs, at first I was a little bit like, okay, a lot of smart people are saying this is going to change everything. So I think that's possible that it will, but I was having trouble seeing what's the value to me right now. How can I apply this in my business right now? And I didn't quite see it at first. Then I started to kind of come across a little bit more and do a little more research and be like, okay, I kind of see how maybe I could apply this. And now it's really recent, but the last few months I really dove in. I went to VCon, which is Gary V's NFT conference, just a couple weeks ago. And
what was it like?
It was cool. It was cool. It was basically a big party.
That's what they all are in Web3 at the moment.
Yeah, I mean,
Wag
honestly,
me.
I was hoping to learn more, to be perfectly honest. It was, I don't know, as nerdy as that sounds. You know, when I go to Funnel Hacking Live, for example, like I got my notepad out. I'm getting like the sauce, like I'm learning. This was more like, you know, it's a bunch of celebrities. It's cool. People are hanging out, networking. It was fun. It was fun.
Yeah.
So I guess to answer your question, absolutely. I'm now more and more embracing it and seeing that, God, the possibilities are endless, and talk about that idea of creativity. Now it's just, wow, there's a whole new world to be creative in, and how can we apply this, and how can we do cool things as artists, as producers, as record labels, as, you know, as consumers, and God, this could be a whole nother conversation, I'm sure, but
easily.
It's really cool.
Yeah, I'm on board as well. I think the first part as well is educating people about it, educating music people who make music, people who listen to music, you know, which you and I are in a fantastic place to do. So yeah, well, that was the little bell going off to remind us for our time. Gabe, it's been amazing. I'm sure we could yarn for hours about all this stuff, but it's amazing having you on and sharing your views and your time with me. Very quickly, we'll have a link down the bottom. Is there any particular social media profiles you'd like people to follow you on?
Yeah, probably Instagram. Legion Gabe is probably the best one to find me at the moment. Although I'm starting to get more on Twitter now that that's where all the Web3 stuff is happening. Also Legion Gabe on Twitter, which is like what's your
Twitter feed? What's your Twitter feed?
Legion Gabe. It was collecting dust for like 3 years. Like I literally did nothing and then hopped back on a few months ago.
Dude, I'm exactly the same. I did nothing for 3 years and now I'm like on it constantly.
I know, it's funny. So I'm starting to get a little more active there, but probably the best one is Legion Gabe. Instagram, if you're, you know, an artist looking for beats, Legion Beats, producer, you want to learn about stuff, Midi money. I'll get you some links and stuff for that. And man, thank you. It's been great to connect. This is our first time actually getting to chat. And I look forward to having more conversations and figuring out how we can creatively figure out ways to work together. And I love the opportunity to talk about this stuff and hopefully inspire somebody, or at least get them thinking a slightly different way or whatever. And I love that people like you are out here, you know, doing that and giving me a chance to hop on. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. That was great.